Hey,
Hey,
now.
we're back again. Oh dear, well, we had a bit of a mishap, everybody. Sorry, let me pop myself up in the main window here. Sorry, we had a bit of a mishap. We started the show and we forgot to press the go live button. And we've been talking with Jonathan Lemon, our special guest, Jonathan Lemon, this morning.
About a really cool documentary that he's part of.
Yeah. All right, so should I start with the theme tune again? So we play the theme tune because nobody saw the theme tune. Sorry, we messed up there. We're going to start the theme tune and try and figure out how to start the show again from the beginning. All right.
Okay.
All right.
You got it?
No, I don't. Yeah.
I don't know which one it is.
Oh,
is
wait.
It the last one?
Yeah, it's probably the last one. Yeah.
Okay, I'll play it.
One day as I was wandering through the aisles of my art store, I bought myself a Pictomicron and some Crystal board. I made a fancy comic, and now I am all set to be the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking internet. I'll have a forum and a blog and links from DVD. I'll get reviewed by a web star, me and William G. The world can be your oyster. I think it's a safe bet when you're the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking internet. When you're the greatest web cartoonist on the fucking internet.
Hello, everybody. So, welcome to the show. We're here today with our special guest, Jonathan Lemon. Lemon is a fantastic professional cartoonist. I'm trying to think of all the things I said before about him. Basically, he draws a strip called Rabbits. He writes and draws Rabbits Against Magic. And he draws Alley Oop, a strip about a time-travelling caveman, which has been around since 1933, I believe. I didn't know that earlier this morning, but now I do. Hi, Jonathan, or Lemon. Shall I just call you Lemon? People just generally call him Lemon. I'm not being rude if I call him Lemon.
No, that's generally what people call me, especially when I'm misbehaving. And you have Zombie Chris as your little title there. Is that
all right. Well, I'll probably change that. But yes. Yeah, Restream does a funny thing with the names there. I'm not sure what that's all about. All right, hopefully we're going out live and Tina can see us now.
It looks like we're live, but don't forget there's still like a 5-second delay. So, it might be a second.
Yes,
but chat looks like it's live. That's always a good sign. Tina
all right.
says hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody. So, Jonathan, I invited him to come on because, he's a friend and a professional cartoonist, but he's recently been in a documentary feature film, or appearing in it. It's not been about him. It's been about a friend of his called Jack, and the movie's called Jack Has a Plan. And, Lemon, can you tell us all a little bit about it?
Yeah, I should point out I'm only a very small part of the movie. It's really the story of a good friend of mine called Jack, who had a terminal brain cancer and managed to last 25 years before finally succumbing to the terrible ailment. And the documentary is really about his life and then ultimate demise, which sounds terrible and boring and really tragic and sad, but is actually highly amusing. And I can't recommend it enough. I've watched it several times. It does feature my cartoons. And,
did you do some special cartoons for the show, for the film?
Yes, I did some special cartoons. I think I did about 8 comic strips, initially done to act as a little segues between all the sequences because there's no real narration kind of going on. So they were trying to fill in the jumps between different bits. But they ended up, thankfully, I did see the version with all my comic strips in, and it was more dominating than I was comfortable with.
Oh.
They were.
Well, you're modest.
I'm not being modest, but it just felt, from a filmmaking perspective, I do have a media background. that it was too much. It's just little, like, you just wanted to get back to the live action thing.
Yes,
You did a whole thing where they were going to print them in a fake newspaper, and then have the newspaper opening up, and then going through and scanning all the panels and things. So if you get the DVD, I'm jumping ahead here because I don't even know if there will be a DVD, but the DVD will probably have those as some sort of extra thing. It's currently doing a what's called the festival circuit. So it's in all the different movie festivals. It did the Alameda International Film Festival on Saturday. It's not my movie as well. I just want to point out I'm just a mere small part of this movie, and they're not paying me to promote this.
Don't forget, we were also discussing that you were the villain in the movie.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, because Jonathan's a bit of a social realist. I think I mentioned before that I'm a bit of a daydreamer. I live with my head in the clouds, and Jonathan, like one of those people that likes to pop my bubble, much as I love him. You're like Ricky Gervais. His sidekick Carl Pilkington. He has a character called Bullshit Man, which Sam really likes, and Sam's lately was saying that Bullshit Man really was the hero we need for our times. He comes in, and if there's some bullshit going on, Bullshit Man appears and he goes, "That's bullshit." And
the Penn and Teller did a show called Bullshit.
Oh, did they? I love Penn and Teller. Yes, I've seen them live. Yes.
Odd enough, the filmmaker who made this documentary was actually on an episode of Bullshit.
Okay. Yes. Oh, yes. I remember that show. Yes, they pop myths. Oh, so the documentary filmmaker was on an episode of that show.
He was. Yes. And yes.
So he particularly wanted you to portray the sort of the negative point of view in this film, because probably there weren't a lot of people who are willing to do so.
The whole process was filmed. Jack's also, because he worked in media too. He had a lot of footage of himself. He had footage of himself when he was first diagnosed, announcing at his wedding that he is cancer free, and then he has all this footage of him directing bands and all the bands that he was in. And I guess strutting around, playing bass guitar and stuff. And then so what happened was he finished documenting himself, and Brad also filmed a lot of this stuff, and just had so much footage. I think he said 60, 70 hours worth of footage. And so they shift through it, and he had a producer and an editor working with him. They went through it all and realized that, I didn't make the movie, but I understand that they had to sort of identify certain people to feature, to have the different sides of the argument per se. And they identified me and asked me, and I agreed to be the person who was doubting that this was the right decision and trying to talk him out of it.
Yeah, well, from the clip I saw, you sounded like you were, you sounded pretty good on the subject. But yes, I mean, I was sort of quite skeptical about the whole concept. I mean, but you were telling me a bit about this. Jack is his name.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew up in Southern California and had quite a sort of colourful childhood, from what you were saying. So his father died. His father
Menlo Park, so it's south of where I am, at least.
Oh, okay, just south of here, but not really Southern California. But yes, so and you said that his father had left after he was born, and his mother told him that he had gone off a cliff.
Yes, his mother informed Jack not to bother asking about his father because he'd driven off Devil's Slide and perished.
Devil's Slide, like down here in Half Moon Bay.
Devil's Slide, yeah, a notorious location.
Well, I mean, on the way to Half Moon Bay, yeah. So, down Pacifica, yeah.
The lovers leave the automobiles.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Wow. So yes. So then he grew up, and he's quite an extrovert character.
Very much a personality. Yeah, big personality. Especially since after they scooped out the left frontal lobe cortex of his brain, he had no filter and would basically just tell you everything straight off without the niceties and formalities that we would normally give each other.
Yes,
which was very refreshing in some ways.
Lemon, did you know him before that surgery, and did you note the change in his personality?
I did not know him. The first time I met him, he'd just had the surgery. because he
Okay.
is he's bald headed and he had a big old like zipper scar around the top of his head.
Okay. I was just curious.
Because I'd been living in Cuba and I'd met his wife who was working there, and she invited me to an event at the Yerba Buena Center with some hula dancers, and I went down, and that's definitely the first time I remember meeting him. But my spouse, who I met through those guys, does remember him before, and said that he was a nice guy, but maybe slightly a little uptight and full of himself. And after the surgery, he was very humbled, and again, this really affected his personality. And she said, she much preferred him afterwards. Maybe we should.
I mean, that's the subject of a fascinating documentary in itself. I mean, yes, there's these things. I mean, I've heard about somebody who had a nail in their brain and didn't affect them at all. But then other people can change your personality.
Phineas Gage, the guy who had the railroad spike go through his skull, and they realized that parts of the brain affect personality because his whole personality changed after this happened. This was like back in like the late 1800s that this happened.
Yes, I heard a story in my family. So we had someone who was a doctor in past generations. Apparently they had a nail in the top of the head that you could lift it out and it dropped back in again.
Wow.
I don't know if it's maybe an apocryphal story, but it's a story I grew up with in my family.
Also, the extreme example of this would be Mike the Chicken, right?
Mike the Chicken?
You know about Mike the Chicken?
No.
Oh, this is one of the greatest stories I've ever told.
That's the chicken that they cut off the head, right?
Yeah, they cut off the head, but it lived. Yeah, they traveled the world as a sideshow attraction, and they would have to use a little pipette or pipette, as we say, to clean is it the esophagus? What's this part? And then,
Well, they didn't get the whole head. That was what they discovered. They cut it in an angle.
Obviously, there must have been some sort of...
Yeah, so it's sliced off the face more probably than the brain.
Poor chicken.
But the personality must have changed.
Yes.
Off topic. We were talking about his father dying on Devil's Slide. I'm sorry, this show goes this way. I'm going to turn off the mic.
Yes, we roam about, but the personality change is very... I mean, so his wife preferred him afterwards because he was less, inhibited, but he was also sort of more modest or something.
I would imagine that going through that sort of like life or death experience as well, any kind of surgery would make you rethink your life and your choices.
Yeah. And
then it also meant that he couldn't do a lot of the things that he did before. In the documentary, they showed some of his journal, and he had this very neat writing, and he did all this very alpha type stuff. And then after the surgery, he was very much I just can't do that anymore. And so he focused on the things.
Yeah. Yes. It sounds like a fascinating man. Yes. So he made this decision that he had a relapse.
He was fine for 25 years, 20 years or so. I don't remember exactly how many years, but a good number of years, and a total outlier. People were saying how much, all the medical staff were like, it's amazing you're still going. People just don't last this long. You normally have 6-12 months after you normally have a diagnosis of this kind of brain tumor. No one lives this long, and you've done it specific. So he already felt he was living on borrowed time. And he traveled the world. He did all the things that he wanted to do, and he was a very content and happy person. So that there was a checkup, and then that he was told that the cancer had come back, and they offered him chemo. He said, "Nope, I'm going to go on my own terms." Now the conundrum is when you have to make this decision, you are you're allowed to have, you have to have two doctors. You know this, Chuck, because you've been through this recently with one of your family members. But two physicians have to sign off saying you are of sane mind and you are making the decision not under duress and in a rational manner. You're not doing it because you feel like you're a burden. You're not doing it because you feel like, your life is meaningless or whatever. You're doing it because you understand you have only got 6 months to live. Well, I think it's 6 months or an estimate amount of time to live. and that's when they'll give you the prescription for the little cocktail that you mix up and swallow. So that is essential.
Just philosophically, I think it's good to have the option, because there's people that are in great pain. There's people that are losing their cognitive function to dementia or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. There's people that are becoming trapped in their bodies, and it's torturous for them. And I'm coming from a place where I had my grandfather commit suicide. And he obviously did it in a time when it wasn't legal, and hid it from the family, and did it in a very violent manner. But he didn't do it to hurt anyone. He did it to take himself out of pain, right? And if he had better options at that time, and there wasn't a stigma against it, he probably would have discussed it with the family. I think that would have been a better exit for him than the one he chose. But that's just
agreed.
I don't know. So.
It's very difficult. I mean, these sort of life and death decisions, at the beginning of life and the end of life are very difficult. There's no clear answer. We've got humans have created various moral systems that might have one opinion or another, but at the end of the day, there's no answer other than, in your own hearts, really.
As long as you're not doing it like in the movie Midsummer.
The movie Midsummer, that was a good one where they were jumping. Well, I was just saying a different moral belief. Yeah.
and then the guy lives, so they beat him with hammers.
They come with the big hammer. I loved it. Yeah. Did you see that one, Jonathan? Lemon?
I didn't, but Dale said something then that we all spoke over.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, do you go to CVS with a script and say, "Hey, I need this"? Yeah. CVS has it.
I believe they went to Kaiser, but yes, you have.
Kaiser, I understand that.
I was quite shocked too, Dale, to find out that it was available at all, actually. So, so you said that Jack's neighbour was instrumental in writing this law.
Yes, Torrey knew Jack and was able to rewrite the law to allow. There was already a law, but it didn't give you certain freedoms, and it was made more like the Oregon law. I guess Oregon was the very first state to allow physician-assisted suicide. It matched more or less the Oregon law. So I think they'd seen, and she was able to argue the case that, it's fine in Oregon, no one's going crazy, let's try it out here. We're a progressive state. And I think it's 10 states now allow it. And Oregon even allows you to go to Oregon and do it. They're the new Switzerland of the US, I guess. It's a combination of drugs. Now, one of the interesting facts about that is that there is one drug that is used in Europe, which Europe will not export to the US because it was being used for
executions.
Death penalty. Yes.
Yeah.
And so on moral grounds, they no longer. So you have to have a longer lasting drug, which can be anywhere from 1 hour to 8 hours to have an effect. And there is also there's also a horse tranquilizer drug that I know you can go to Mexico and just buy over the counter.
That helps you with COVID too, I heard.
I just wanted to say that I made a remark about Kaiser. Kaiser is awesome. So I was just joking.
I have Kaiser. They've actually been really good medical because everything's under one roof. So I have all my doctors talk to each other about me without me having to be the middle person. But that's just me.
Likewise with Kaiser. I have had very good experience with Kaiser.
Yeah.
And they haven't killed me yet.
Haven't killed me yet.
But Lemon, I want to admit to our viewers, all like two of them, that we blew the beginning of the show earlier, so we are retreading stuff that we talked about that didn't get recorded. So it was
gold. It was pure gold. Oh well.
It was pure gold.
This is but a tribute to that part of the interview.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think we're more or less caught up now. But what, Dale? Did you remember something that we talked about?
why your friend decided to find his father, and what was that experience? Did the father know that he had a son? Did they find some sort of resolution, like the guy coming up saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm your son, and I'm going to be dead soon"?
Yeah, I mean, you've essentially said what happened. The movie, this is the best part of the movie, in my opinion. It's the funniest part of the movie for sure. They basically, the detective fails to find any trace of this guy, and then Jack just went online one day and just randomly typed the name, and this address came up, and him and the filmmaker decided to drive out and see, you know, just I guess just for footage, right? This could have been where my dad. This could have been, and they drove up, and it was like a gated community, and they couldn't get in, and then suddenly the gate just randomly opened, like they didn't press a button or anything, so they just drove in, went to this little place, and someone came out of the house, and straight away you can tell it's his dad. Like they look exactly.
Yeah,
the
he
same.
looked the same. Yeah,
exactly. So there's no question, and he's like, "I think you're my dad." And then the dad's very excited because he knew there was a child, and he'd never been able to really see him or hang out with him, and always wondered. And you know, most people would be very freaked out. I can imagine, you know, if that happened to me, and I got my own life going, and it was cool, and all of a sudden this random person comes in, and you can't exactly tell him to go away, and you're dead to me, sort of thing. I mean, I guess you could, but there's a very, very sweet. Yeah. He's a very sweet man. He was into drag racing, I guess. That was his thing. He liked to drag race.
The dad was a drag racer.
But was just so over the moon that, you know, he had this kid, and, you know, and really really accepted him. But then at the same time, you know, oh, by the way, I'm going to die.
So his parents were pretty cool though. Like his dad's a drag racer, his mum was a beauty queen. You know, that sounds
Yeah, well, cool in the sense that they had cool things that they did.
Yeah, like yes, in the way that cool was cool back in the 50s. Or...
So let's talk comics. Let's talk alley-oop and you know, Rabbitkin's magic and stuff. So, like, how long have you been with Go Comics?
Well, Go Comics, it's the syndicate keeps changing its name. When I first signed with them, it was Universal Press Syndicate, and then it was Universal UClick, and then it was just UClick, and then it was Andrews McMeel. So now it's Andrews McMeel.
Yeah.
But the Rabbits, I think it just did 15 years, and I posted I think I said this last time I was on. Posted every single day, 15 years, no reruns. And I'm definitely not a copy and paster. Even though I went digital about 5 years ago, I refuse to copy and paste. Every single panel is hand drawn onto a digital device.
You never copy and paste.
Never copied and pasted. I made a pact with myself that if I went digital, I would still draw in my sketchbook a page a day, every day, as a way of just not losing touch with the real medium.
Yes, well, we've been talking a lot about sort of digital versus analog on the show. I mean, I've sort of went back a lot more analog recently. I just finished a whole book. I finished 2 books. I wrote 2 books last week, like all these paintings I did over the pandemic, like different watercolors. And, you know, I wanted to write little captions or stories, and some of them are little poems or songs or whatever. And so I've like done these 2 books. I was like, each one's about 80 pages. Now I don't know what to do with them. I was just going to publish them, but I think they're quite good, so I feel like I might have to send them some places. But then I'm not really sure. I don't know. They're quite out there. I really don't know. There's not that many places I can send them. I don't really know where I would send anything these days.
Well, remember,
it's certainly not to Andrews McMeel. They're like, you know, it's too out there for them.
Yeah, they're locked up pretty tight with what they have. You know,
remember, this is how features. 50 Shades of Grey started. It was Twilight fan fiction. You just need to re-edit your stories into something that will sell.
I think they are, though. I think they're really good. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. I'm very pleased with it. Or they are. It's like my concept double album. You know, it was all these things where I had to take a very free hand with it over the pandemic and everything. So yeah, I don't know. Like maybe Fantagraphics, but I don't know really. I have no idea where to send things like these days.
Lemon, could you tell us about your hardware? What software? What computer? What graphics tablet? What sketchbook? What pen? What ink?
That's basically what I was going to ask. Like, how do you work digitally? Are you in Photoshop? Are you in Clip Studio Paint?
I can tell you all of that stuff, and that's probably the most interesting thing that I will say during this session.
No.
But yeah, I'm going to let Dale take over this bit. If he's the Clip Studio Paint expert.
We have not started talking about cannibalism yet. So,
no, yeah, okay, Dale. All right, no, Dale. I'm receding you again. If you're going to start talking about cannibalism, art supplies. Can we start with art supplies and techniques?
I was going to go off on a tangent, but it will come back to it. Art supply. So we're talking purely digital, or are we talking what I used to
everything.
do? Or...
What are you using right now?
Yeah, what do you draw in your sketchbook? Like, we like talking art supplies.
I wish I could write this down because I'm very proud of my sketchbook. I love
get out
stuff. Where it's upstairs, I can maybe hold my phone up here to see what stuff you can roughly see here.
I also love seeing your library behind you. How many books do you have?
Way too many. So one of the things about having a syndicate is that they'll send you any book if you ask. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we'll send." So I went crazy when they first said, "Oh, we're just going to send you a big box. Just tell us what you want." I was like, "Oh, I'll have the complete Doonesbury, the complete Foxtrot, the complete, all the big, complete Haven and Hobbs, all those things." And then anytime a new thing comes out, they'll send me stuff. So it's almost all. Well, I actually have half is maybe comics and cartooning history, and then I have a lot of books about jazz music, jazz there, and then we've got an entire collection of mad paperbacks up there.
Oh,
and then we have back here that's fine art, and then there's comedy, and then I'm not framing this well, am I? A lot of bios. And
well, we can make you full screen. Hang on, there we go. Now we can see a lot more.
There we go.
Oh,
yes.
What is that framed piece?
Yeah, what's the original on the wall?
Oh, so I have quite a few of those. There's
I always love when our guests do show and tell.
Yeah.
Yes, we do show. These are original alley-oops. So they're these are from 1971.
Oh my.
So yeah, and I haven't put these in frames yet, but I have a whole ton of these, and I have the Sunday ones are even bigger. They're like this big with a top thing. They're very nice. I have a few of those.
Were those still being done by the original artist, or was there already a different artist by 71?
So I've learned a lot about the history of alley-oop, and one of the things is that up until me, there was always a team of people working on it.
Always a team.
I do have a writer.
You replaced a team? You replaced a team of people.
I replaced a smaller team that replaced it. But back in the day, there would be somebody who would do the pencils. Usually the original V.T. Hamlin. Vincent Tratt Hamlin was the original artist. And then Dave Growy was his assistant. And Dave Growy eventually took over because Hamlin's eyesight went. He couldn't draw anymore. And then Growy had two assistants. There was a colorer and then an inker. There may have even been a letterer, like in proper comics or whatever you want to call them, the Marvel comics. They always have the list of all the people. Yeah, up until me, and I do have a writer, so I'm not completely on my own.
Who's that? Yeah. That's not your writer sitting next to you there on the screen. Who's that? That looks like.
Are we talking this guy?
This guy.
Are we talking that guy?
That guy. Yeah, that guy.
This is the opposite of Zoom. Zoom was like a mirror, right? And we've got the.
Yeah.
No, this is the writer.
That's the writer.
Oh.
Okay.
Squad.
Yeah. No, you have a good writer. Yes, she's doing a fantastic job.
She's so funny. She's one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life, and I think she's awesome. She's doing a great job.
Yeah, I would love to meet her sometime.
Now, Rabbit Skins Magic, do you have a writer on that as well, or is that all you?
No, that all comes out of my butt.
Excellent.
That's how we do it, folks.
Have you considered drawing with a pen instead of your butt?
No. A lot of people would claim that would be an improvement. Yeah.
But we were also going to talk technical setup.
We were.
Are you in
we were talking about
Studio Paint?
All right. So the quick thing is, I have this. I think it's. I saw Chuck's the other day, and I think mine's bigger than yours, Chuck. Not to be boastful.
My Cintiq.
Your Cintiq. Do you have the full size one?
No, I don't have the very biggest. I don't think. No, I mean, it is very big. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think there's a slightly bigger one though.
No, you have the 32.
Mine looks like it's 29.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll hold that up. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Mine's
a bit bigger.
I don't know. Mine is pretty big. I mean, I don't know if there was one that's slightly bigger, but I don't think it's much bigger.
Okay. What do you have it hooked to?
Okay, so I have a MacBook Pro plugged into it behind.
You're running an enormous Cintiq on a MacBook Pro?
Yeah. Well, you can run anything. It's not. I don't know if there used to be a time where, like when I was doing a lot of video work, where you would have to spend a long time rendering, and the size of the computer and the power and the speed were very, very much an important part of it. But I've plugged a MacBook Air into this thing and it's fine. I don't see a no.
Yeah, it powers itself.
It had the guts to do it.
Sorry, Dale, what did you say?
I didn't realize it had the guts to drive a display large.
It's just a monitor, isn't it? It's really just no more than a monitor. It's like having an external monitor.
Yeah, the Cintiq's plugged in itself. It's got all its internal hardware. So it's, as far as the laptop's concerned, it's just another screen, and then it's just getting the little extra information from the mouse.
Okay.
So I draw, and I guess I do draw with a pencil, a digital pencil, to do my to just map everything out in Photoshop. I have a template, obviously, with all the. Why am I getting a thumbs down for that?
Yeah, this is a huge argument on the show, but please continue.
Wait, what? What is?
I'm scared.
Yeah, it's not a huge argument. There are no huge arguments on this show.
Wait till Amber comes back.
Right. I'm not cutting and pasting. I'm drawing with freehand. With a digital pencil on a digital file, rather than what I used to do, which is do the whole thing on paper and then scan it in.
Yeah.
This is because I do 2 daily strips. I need speed and I need the flexibility to. I think one of the things that I would say is the absolute must for, or the absolute benefit of going digital, is that you can do a pencil and then you can increase the size or move it around, and which you can't do obviously on paper without redrawing the whole thing. So that really helps. If I suddenly decide, oh wait, no, it needs to be smaller, or the whole composition is slightly to the left or the right, I can move it up. And then I have my brush set. Now, with one of the things that I found out when I first started doing stuff for newspapers is you can't use what's it called? You can't feather your pens. You have to. It's got to be black.
Oh, anti-aliasing.
That's what I was.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It has to sort of bitmap. Yeah.
It looks like when you draw it, because it's all if you zoom in and you're doing some sort of detail, it's so much nicer if you're using an anti-alias. I guess alias pen. No, anti-alias.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but what if you're at like 1200 DPI?
I'm 600. I don't need to be that big.
You don't even need to be 1200. Yeah. I mean, like 1200, you can't see it.
Still, it's still, you still have to occasionally zoom in, and so that kind of bugs me slightly, because I find it. And here's the other thing: if you draw and scan, you lose a lot more of the subtlety, because if you're drawing using that like yes or no binary kind of thing, you know exactly what it's going to look like at all levels. If you draw some of the early alley-oops, I was drawing on paper, and you can see how much it just takes away all the personality of the line. It just thickens it out. Even if you sort of mess around with the what's the feature called? Oh my god, my brain. The contrast.
Contrast. Oh, the contrast. Yeah. Yes.
it's very much, it just removes a lot of.
Oh yeah, I spend a lot of time fiddling with the threshold. There's a threshold filter,
Yes,
is the one that you can use
exactly
to sort of convert it. But
threshold.
where's the point? And there's an exposure tool or something. There's something quite complicated. I really remember spending a long time just trying to figure out like some perfect setting
I
to
do
convert
brightness and
line art.
contrast like an amateur. So
Yeah.
Threshold I think it was 120. That was my sort of default. Seemed to work. So anyway, we've got rid of all that. But you'll like this next bit, Dale, because I then, once I finished inking, I will move to Clip Studio, which I know you're a big fan of. Okay, I got a thumbs up.
Yes. Yeah.
hey, I use Clip Studio too. I find the perspective tools really cool in it.
Yeah. Now Clip Studio, what I dislike about it. Well, there's many things I dislike about it, but it's well, no, I would be negative. The fill feature is what I love. So you can color in Clip Studio in a way which I can't believe the people at Adobe haven't realized is what would be useful. And that fill, to get the paint bucket, and I've got my whole palette of colors that I know what matches with what. I can just go quickly.
We literally had the product manager of Creative Cloud on the show, and Dale told him about the benefits of Clip Studio Paint. And
that was fun.
Yeah,
that was over a year ago, or about a year ago.
that was before I joined the show. It sounds like.
And of course, one of the other great things, it's not a subscription model. At least it wasn't when I bought it. So I have it.
It is now.
Yeah. Version 2 is a subscription model. Version 1, they say they're going to maintain, but I just had an update, and I swear it's working slower than it used to. I think they're trying to push me to get that subscription model.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Dale, actually, sorry, Dale. Before you go on, did you ever send Matthew a list of like product features that he from Clip Studio Paint that he needs to adopt in Adobe?
I think the millions of Photoshop users are doing a better job than I am.
You had a direct line to the main man there. He asked you for some of these things, what they were.
I know an ex-programmer from Adobe, and he talked to me about how they upgrade.
Well, I'm sure it's a big behemoth. I mean,
they totally dropped the ball on the mobile platforms too, because Procreate's what everyone uses. On the iPad Pro.
Well, Procreate.
Procreate's
kind of like GarageBand. It's free, right? Yeah. It just comes with Apple products, and so people just use it, and it becomes an industry standard because a lot of people buy Apple.
Well,
plus people are finding it easy to use and getting great results, which I can't say I've found with Photoshop on my iPad.
I don't know. I don't have a pad, so
yeah.
This is a question of whether or not this is a business model now of you produce a software, you charge a low price for it, it becomes an industry standard, and then lo and behold, it then becomes a subscription.
I think you're paranoid.
Dale, what do you think I'm doing with this show? Like
it's just an art program that
once we've been doing this for 20 years, we might have enough viewers.
Well, talk to the users of ZBrush and Clip Studio Paint about that.
So I want to talk to John about something. Okay, so you have worked both traditionally and digitally, and you've pretty much professionally transitioned over digitally. It sounds like. What was that transition like? Like, was it a difficult one for you to learn new programs, or was it something that you're like, oh, this is intuitive, I can do this?
I was very proud of the fact that I was one of the last cartoonists, or at least one of the last professional cartoonists, who was still doing it the old-fashioned way. Mm-hmm. And I loved doing it because you could do it anywhere. We could go on vacation. I'd just take some Bristol board and my inks, and I still had another job back then. And I would just, every lunchtime, I'd just go to the San Francisco library and knock out a couple of strips and then come back. And it was all, you didn't have to plug it in. You could work during a power outage. And I was very much into the whole lore of how beautiful my pieces were, how great they looked, how you could, if you chose to sell the pieces afterwards, and you could like rub them against your body and all sorts of fun stuff that you can't do.
Yeah, that's sort of where I'm at the moment. The whole rubbing it over your body thing.
Well, I know that Jim Keefe is currently doing Sally Forth for King
and
Features.
Flash Gordon.
Yeah, well, I don't know if Flash Gordon is continuing anymore. Is it? Is he still doing Flash Gordon? Anyway, whatever. I know that he still
does a lot of the coloring too. He's a very good colorist.
Yeah, but he still works traditionally. He is still working on paper and lettering, and I think only the colors are done digitally for the Sally Forth comics. But I know that Terry Beatty, who's been doing Rex Morgan, he's gone completely over to Clip Studio Paint. So it's interesting to see that transition for newspaper strips.
Lemon, is there a reason why you're doing the drawing and inking in Photoshop versus doing it in a vector layer in Clip Studio Paint?
Well, I do it in a vector layer in Photoshop. So it's okay. I think ultimately it is my encyclopedia knowledge of Photoshop which makes me have more confidence in it.
Okay.
Whereas Clip Studio, like I look at the panels and suddenly I see, there's two different paint buckets, and I'm like, which one? Why is there two?
I mean,
design, I know you can customize it to a point, but the saving and opening again, and then Clip Studio loses all my text layers as well. So
okay.
I
understand that.
If they fix that, I would definitely look into just doing it all in Clip Studio. But also the output, I have to do a certain output with a LZW output TIFF file, which I'm not sure that Clip Studio can do.
So
yes,
the big advantage is the big advantage of Clip Studio the fills thing. I mean, what is the biggest
coloring?
Yeah, coloring. Like
I can't imagine coloring in Photoshop. It would be because then you've got to literally have a second layer where you close all the little gaps. And my art has a lot of gaps. If I had art like Garpo that had no gaps, it would probably be a little easier, but it would take forever. So also it sort of creates a second file in the event of some tragedy that I would then be, oh yes, I've got my little Clip Studio file I can at least use to salvage whatever might have been lost. To go back to the previous question though, the transition was it was difficult because I looked at all these guys and they kept saying, oh yeah, you should go digital. How are you still working by hand? What are you doing that for? Oh my god. And so I would go to all these cartooning events where the Wacom people had laid out all these fine pieces of hardware, and I'd sit there and I'd like spend half an hour thinking, and then I'd look at them and I never felt comfortable with the way it looked. There was always that slight lag on the pen, where the icon would lag behind, and I'd always like look and think, it's taken away all the personality of my line work. And I think a lot of people look at that and they would go, oh, that's good. You're making it look generic and professional. And to this day, I still look and think, oh yeah, my stuff, it is taking away something. And again, I told you, I do not copy and paste, so I still draw thousands and thousands of rabbits every year. And you just see that evolution, how I'm still getting the mechanical memory of my hand. It's translating better from my head to my work, what I'm seeing and what I want to try and do, which but the digital is that you can undo, which I guess is something that is kind of like a crutch because you shouldn't really be undoing. But
that's it. Yeah.
Like a rabbit's ear has that swerve, and every now and then I'll do it and I go whoops, and I know if I had a pen I'd be getting like the whiteout. I've got it all in front of me still, all the inks and scrubbing or cutting little squares to, and that's a pain to do when you're on a deadline.
Yeah. Well, you're on the deadline there. That's the thing. I mean, yeah, the thing that I've been working on. I mean, I've got very into just the tactile experience of the ink and the watercolor on the paper, and I love like when I've got a video and I can watch my hand doing the inking and I can play it back fast. That's very satisfying to me to sort of not have the stress of I'm actually sort of in the moment of working on it, where you have to you're sort of working quite hard. It's very relaxing to sit back and look at yourself just do it.
With digital stuff and with Clip Studio Paint, what I found that kind of livened up my line is I bought a bunch of brushes, and those brushes, like some of them, I took the time to organize my palette for Clip Studio Paint. So what you're saying, like there's 2 paint buckets and stuff like that, I took the time to actually organize all that stuff so that it's not confusing for me and I know where everything's at, and like my palette colors and stuff. And I created a whole section of brushes called my janky brushes that are lines that do this as you're doing your straight line. Right, so it looks like you're doing a very fast line with like a crow quill or something, because the thickness of the line will also vary as you're doing it. And this is a digital brush, so there's times when I'm like drawing grass or something, and I realize the grass looks too dead for me because it doesn't have that life to the line, and I'll switch over to one of these janky lines, and I'll be like, oh, okay, that's the variation that I was looking for, that I would be doing, because I'd be doing the lines very fast with the crow quill naturally. And so I've found a bunch of these like digital brushes that kind of mimic what I would do traditionally in order to achieve that. So that's
okay. There's 2 kinds of drawing,
yeah,
I think, for like cartoons. One is like, where you're sort of very careful and you're like trying to do it very sort of slow and perfectly.
Yeah.
And, and create that sort of professional rhythm. And then there's this other thing, again, which is what I've been sort of getting more into recently, is just embracing all those mistakes and just sort of throwing it down. And, then sometimes it's even better. So it's, but it's a totally different way in my mind of working. I don't not totally, but it's like a dial. It's a dial.
Well, you and I have very different art styles too. You're
everybody has a lot of
I mean, like I don't know, my stuff I try and put in a 3D space, but you create the 3D space through overlap. And there's a lot of like visual tricks that you do as a cartoonist that it just flows out of you. And then you use a big brush when you watercolor, and I don't understand that because I use a tiny little brush to have control over there.
Oh yeah, I got really into that big brush.
Yeah.
I mean, have you done any watercolors, Lemon, or anything like manual coloring for a while? Because I hadn't. I'd gone totally digital.
Let me see if this is even going to work. Can I hold my phone up to the camera? Will that give you any idea of what I've been up to?
Maybe. Yeah, and you're saying you're drawing a sketchbook a day. Are you posting these anywhere? Like, can we see your sketchbook drawings?
This is something I did yesterday, not in my sketchbook.
Oh yes. Oh yeah, we can see it.
It's very
Let's go full screen.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I hate you.
There was I thought that I was going to hide Waldo in there somewhere.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm very reserved about doing those things anymore. I'm like, those things are too much like hard work.
All right, here's a sketchbook thing. This is we were in Mexico.
Oh yes,
a scene from Mexico.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'm trying to get that looser style on my pens because I can do very photorealistic drawing with sort of, about holding the pen further back up the stem. You
yes,
freer sort of thing going on.
Well, I haven't done that in a while. There was a point. I definitely have a phase where I was like going all the way out.
Well, we're pen nerds here. What pen are you using for your sketchbook? And what sketchbook are you using?
Oh my goodness! Damn, I didn't bring. I should have. I'm not prepared. Let's see. I use the the Faber-Castell, the one everyone uses. What's it called? The
artist pen.
Yeah. The set, and I like F, which I believe stands for fine.
Fine.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
I don't use the F. I use the small and the medium.
Oh, we should trade.
Yeah.
So many.
You guys should have an art slumber party. Yeah, you guys should have like
that would be a great name for the show.
What, art slumber party?
Yeah.
That's quite good. I'll put it on the list. We're trying to come up with 10 so we can pick one.
Are you
I also use nib pens and fountain pens. I found it very hard to get my favorite ink anymore, which was the this one here, the Pelican.
Really?
Oh, nobody uses that anymore.
You can tiny little things, but you can't get the big ones. I'm almost out. So I switched to is it Schwinky?
Really? I thought Blick sold those out of their catalog. That size.
No.
They don't?
Not anymore. Apparently they're not bringing them in anymore. They're from Germany. I've tried.
I use Higgins Black Magic. It's nice and black. It's a bit expensive, but it's very good for the watercolors. Like you can go, like that's the trouble. I don't know about how I remember using Pelican one time. Oh, is that Dr. Martin's?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I've never used that for inking. I used to use the liquid watercolors for painting. Like they give really fluorescent colors.
So I take Higgins and I pull off the cap and I let it dry out for 3 days and then I put on the cap and that's what I use. Because Higgins is too watery, but if you let it dry out, it's like the perfect consistency.
Ooh. What's those?
Those are
Pelican.
German. Those are
very
German
vintage. I don't know. This is
They're vintage. I use my Pelican.
Some of these are long usable. It's like a block of pigment in some water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I use Pelican watercolors. They're like a very basic set, but I really like them because they're very workable.
Lemon, where are you located? Are you in the Bay Area?
Yes.
Okay,
I have exactly that set. Chuck. I have the gouache and the watercolor.
Yeah, they're great, and I find them super workable. They're really bright. I mean, I think purist watercolorists might say they're a bit too grainy or something. I don't know, but I think for cartooning work, they're fantastic.
I believe in making marks on paper, so do what you want.
Yes.
Lemon, you're in the Bay Area, right?
Yes, in San Francisco.
Do you ever go over to Flax? Because they have platinum carbon black, which is fountain pen safe.
Is that permanent though?
Yeah, Sergio Aragonés and Stan Sakai both use platinum carbon black, and that will take water, I believe. And then the cartoonist Matthias Aldefsson, he uses a document ink.
Dale, are you being raptured right now? You look like you're being raptured.
Yeah, sorry. It's price of enlightenment.
It's been coming on throughout the show.
Yeah.
It's already taking your face.
Yeah.
But if you Google Matthias Aldefsson, you'll eventually find his materials page. He likes the Pilot Falcons, and he runs a document ink through it. But he's also used platinum carbon black.
I'm also one of those weird people where I used Repeatograph ink with my brush because it was nice thin ink, but very dark. But yeah, I like I said, I was a weirdo. So,
but Lemon, do you have like a routine, or you're trying to do a page a day in your sketchbook? And
wait, what did he say?
Well,
I do have a routine, and I don't try to. I do a page a day, regardless.
Okay, you do a page
not
a
go
day
to bed
regardless.
at night unless I've done a page a day.
So you won't sleep until you've done a page.
this is what he said.
I'm definitely a man of. I'm a man of ridiculously anal habits. I have a small human child, so it's very regimented. And then, I wake up in the morning at the same time, and I do the same 3 online puzzles, and then I get up and I make the same breakfast, and then the kid goes to school, And then I very much have, like, every day I have a certain goal that I have to meet with the work. So, Monday's very much about just getting the strip started. And then in the evening, I do my Duolingo language study, and then I do my sketching while other things are happening.
What are you learning through Duolingo? I'm curious now.
Well, I was doing French, which I did at school. And then every now and then I start getting the gamification of the Duolingo makes me pop over to the Spanish, and then I do the Spanish, which I speak fluently anyway, but of course I can rack up the points for that, and then I switch back into the French. So, but they're very similar languages. They have a lot of the same rules. But then of course I have to have my half an hour reading and my journal. I kept a journal every single day since January the 1st, 1976. I have.
Really? Oh, well done.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. I kept one through high school. I kept a detailed one through high school, but that's amazing. You kept it all these years.
The journal has every movie I've ever seen with a mark out of 10, what I gave it, and the date I saw it, all the books I've ever read, all the TV shows I've watched, and then.
So when you die, are you going to have all your journals buried, with you?
No. They're all going to go into the digital. They're going to go into the digital Lemon Memorial. He'll have a digital memorial, and his descendants will be able to sort of. All of our descendants, actually, we don't need to worry too much at this point. All of our descendants in the far future will be able to put on their virtual headsets, and they're walking around us right now. They'll be able to walk through all of past history, and everything will be recreated that's not there from AI, from the existing information. They'll mine shows like this, and they will be able to recreate our photo archives, and they'll recreate everything. And everything's sort of set in motion from the Big Bang. So pretty soon the computers are going to be able to predict everything that's going to happen.
So to you, different time periods are just going to become genres of entertainment.
You'd just be able to sort of dial your way back and forth. But also we're coming to the end of the time period that the time police have to patrol carefully. After, it's sort of getting the point. So we're getting a lot more sort of temporal anomalies and things will start happening more and more.
So are we going to have to bring up time police with cannibalism and Zardoz now?
Oh, I've got another new theory. Before we get into that, I've got another new theory to bring into the mix. I was listening to NPR, and they're doing a very good job of having lots of different news people read out the news with different accents, yes, which is great. But I'm wondering if in the future it will be wrong to have any kind of intelligible accent whatsoever when you read the news. So it will only be appropriate to read the news in completely unintelligible
Have you ever read
voices.
Stars My Destination by Alfred Bester?
No.
Because Alfred Bester created a guttural speak that the average person speaks in that book. And all the elite people speak like us, speak with full sentences and stuff. But the guttural speak is what most
Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm going to have to steer this back to reality.
Yeah, back to cannibalism. Sorry, Dale. Yeah, sorry. It was a slight digression.
Yes.
Are your journals and your sketchbooks separate books?
Yes, but the journals are mostly writing, and the sketchbooks are mostly drawing, but the sketchbooks have increasingly got more text on them.
Okay. Do you have separate pens for each?
Yes.
And are they separate types of books? Are you getting moleskin? Yeah. Okay.
No, the sketchbooks are mostly watercolor moleskin ones, or any book. I mean, I filled so many up. I have upstairs. I have 4 shelves, just solid black sketchbooks. So I guess black would be the define. As long as it's a black sketchbook.
Do you mark your covers so you know what's in them?
Some of them, with white, because you have to write on them with white.
Yeah,
I also have a pebble from every location I've spent the night with written on the pebble where I was. So that's
really.
Nice. And then the journals are all Let's desk journals. They're all exactly the same size. They changed over the years. It's kind of interesting seeing them. And I guess for a couple of years I was buying the Eco one, which were green, but for the most part they're black. And
do you have to get them from England? Isn't Let's a British company?
Yeah, so it used to be. It's an English company, Let's of London, and they're pretty high quality. They're I mean, they didn't used to be as expensive as they are now, and obviously they're imported over here. You can get them on Amazon now, but there was a time when I was very loyal to. There was a store downtown called. Missing my chance to buzz market them. A store, Patrick's and Company.
Oh, Patrick's, yes.
They would literally save one for me. They knew I'd be in there to get one every year. They knew me, and I'd go in and, here's your journal, sir.
You're a regular.
Yeah, once a year. It's not exactly regular. Well, I mean, it's, I guess, the definition of regular.
Yeah.
I've been having this. I've been having this existential crisis lately about whether or not I'm a nerd, because when I grew up, I was without doubt a nerd. I was awkward, geeky, the big teeth, the glasses. I was tall, awkwardly tall, and I was sadistically beaten around the face and neck and called a nerd by everyone else. Then something happened in the late 80s, early 90s when nerdism became cool. And now
it was a bit later than that. It was more like the mid 90s by that.
Mid 90s.
My parents always blame that on.
It was in the 70s.
In the 70s.
My parents always blame that on Bill Gates, because Bill Gates became a billionaire.
Bill Gates. Oh, Chris will miss this because Bill Gates is Chris's least favorite billionaire.
No, in the Bay Area. Oh, sorry, Lemon.
Yes, the Bay Area was the 70s, which maybe that's why I was so gravitated towards San Francisco, being an outsider from England coming here. So I'm doubting my nerd credentials now, because nerd is cool. Now whether I'm getting nerd and geek confused, but I reject the Marvel universe. I reject Star Wars.
Well, beep, technical difficulties. Sorry, viewers.
And I do not consider myself a nerd, but I definitely nerd out on things. I deep dive into very specific things, like certain types of movies, certain types of music. But
not everyone has a rock collection.
No, well,
you wouldn't have time. If you spend your time watching Marvel movies, you wouldn't have time for a rock collection. Exactly.
Maybe I'm on the spectrum. I don't know. I have watched Marvel movies because I have a small human child who made me watch them with him. But I would no longer describe myself as a nerd. Yet I'm not. I have nerdish. I nerd out on things. So,
only a nerd would even ask themselves these questions, Lemon.
Can I ask you some questions to determine your nerdom?
Sorry, what was that?
Sure.
Can I ask some questions to determine your nerddom?
Yes, the nerd test.
Yes,
okay,
we'll give you the nerd test.
I'm assuming that your height has remained constant, so we're going to take height out of the equation.
I think I'm shrinking a little bit.
Okay.
I was definitely 6'2" for a long time, and I'm now. Okay. I'm still taller than Trump, but I'm not hit 6'2" last time I measured myself.
Now, do you ever go to comic book stores?
I do, but like watching a car accident.
Why? Because you feel that they're dying?
Okay, so the one I would go. I mean, the only one I can say I've been to recently is Silver Sprocket on Mission Street.
What about Mission Comics and Art? You're quite close to them.
I know, I am close to that. It's terrible.
Yeah, great. Leaf's great. I go there not that often, but I've been trying to go more regularly.
Okay.
I stopped buying comics in the early 90s. I've kept up with Love and Rockets, which was really the only one, and 8-Ball, and the Peter Baggy stuff. A lot of the Bible. And I still buy the books. So, I still buy comic physical books. Like even just yesterday I bought one Spanish guy.
Are you?
But
So you are going to comic book stores? Are you buying any physical media besides books? Are you buying DVDs and CDs or albums?
I'm buying CDs, and I go to Bandcamp where I get most of my music from.
Okay.
And yes, I do have a large collection of 78 records right here.
Okay. Yeah, you have no fear at all.
No nerds over there
of being not a nerd.
78 is pretty nerdy.
I mean,
I think it's okay to be
as
nerdy
as Chuck's, but you're heading there.
Well, okay. We are ignoring the fact that his bookshelf wraps around him physically.
Yeah, I mean that's
okay.
just...
And that right there, like,
and he's 5 miles underground in a bunker.
Well, I forget who said it, but it said like, don't trust people whose television is bigger than their bookshelf. You know, and there's that's the majority of people now. Like, people don't have books, and those who do, that read them and covet them and collect them, they're dangerous because they have knowledge that others do not. So it's okay. Embrace your nerddom.
I think you're a nerd.
Yeah, but I hate superheroes.
It's okay.
So do I.
I'm not interested in. I'm repelled by.
There's a spectrum of nerddom now.
Sci-fi. I'm not that into sci-fi.
Well,
I like sci-fi, but but a lot of comic book shops now, they cater beyond just superheroes.
Absolutely. I'm amazed that there's almost to the point that I don't think Silver Sprocket really has any superhero books. I think it's almost all it's special interest. It's political. It's it's great.
Have you been over
what about the influence of manga on comics over the years? I mean, you've had more experience with comics than I have. Like, have you seen that enter the newspaper scene at all, or I know there's a lot of people that have been threatened by it, but I'm still excited by the new stories, and I just like comics.
Somebody was showing some Disney comics they'd worked on. So I was, for a while, I was coloring. I forgot who it was. He said I was coloring Disney comics at some point in the some decades ago. And I just looking at them though, but I found them really sort of soothing for some reason. I don't know. I think I've talked to Lemon about this before. The comics have it always has a sort of effect on me. But I used to read Disney comics as a kid, and it took me into a very sort of soothing, safe place. It was like a little Simba comic strip and a Pocahontas comic strip or something.
Lemon, may I suggest that you try escapist comics over in Berkeley? It's at least worth going there once.
I don't think the problem is I'm not interested. I mean, I'll go in the stores and I'll always find something. So, and I'm always looking for new things, and I'm always trying to get a sense of what's going on. But I think probably it's healthier now than it's ever been because it's so diverse.
Yeah, I love the fact
you go into the comic stores and it's all young kids, and it's all people of color, and it's all people who are finding books about themselves, or it's people like me who want to find out about people like that. And the public library, I have literally got 10 graphic novels at a time from the library, and I devour them all. Not the superhero ones, but the general mainstream.
Well, you're just rejecting to the mainstream nature of that. I mean, that's just the nerd in you coming out. But this rejection of science fiction is a little more troubling. But I guess that goes with your social realism aspect of your
No. Wait. We haven't inquired yet. Okay, so you reject science fiction. I can accept that. Tolkien? Do you reject like fantasy?
Oh, I couldn't stand anything with pixels and fairies, and I'm not interested.
No King of Elfland's daughter for Lemon.
And any kind of for some reason, people would try and trick you with like Bible stories as comics when you were a kid. And for some reason that gave me a lifelong hatred of sandals. I can't stand anything with sandals. It's like a biggest red flag of all if I see anything with sandals.
I love sandals. See, this is the problem. I see like all these things I love.
Do you read any sort? When you read, do you prefer fiction or nonfiction? And if you read fiction, what genre do you like?
I almost exclusively read graphic novels and biographies of musicians or music people. Something happened. I don't know if it was 9/11. Something happened where fiction just exhausted itself on me. I still read like Paul Auster. If he'll ever write another book, certain authors I'll just like read everything. But I love a good biography.
What about autobiographies?
And autobiographies, there's pros and cons to both.
Well, I'm reading Last Words by George Carlin right now, and it's interesting. I hadn't read it before. I'd read all of his other books, but This one he specifically had come out after his death so he could talk shit on people without dealing with the consequences.
Oh, excellent.
So
I never held him back before.
Yeah, well, he seriously underestimated the power of lawyers then.
Yeah.
Lemon, if you read exclusively graphic novels and autobiographies, are there one or two graphic novels or one or two biographies or autobiographies that stick in your mind that you always recommend people? Like I always recommend the movie Zardoz.
Well, I guess that I'm reading the Groucho Marx autobiography at the moment, and then
which one? He wrote several.
Okay.
My favorite is Memoirs of a Mangy Lover.
Okay, it's not that one. It's the first, I believe it's the first one that came out in the 50s, and then the Harpo one is even better.
Harpo Speaks.
Harpo Speaks is It's one of the greatest books I've ever read in my life.
It's hilarious, isn't it?
Funny.
Yeah.
And I'm just a sucker for any kind of that sort of vaudeville, early Hollywood stuff as well.
Yeah, I'd love to read that.
Dorothy Parker round table stuff.
Have you read The Name Above the Title by Frank Capra?
No. I have some issues with Frank Capra, but yes.
Well, here's what's interesting, okay, is if you want to dive into an interesting read, I recommend pairing that book with Robert Riskin's The Truth Behind the Name, which he wrote shortly after that autobiography came out, that takes all of the points in Capra's book and like, this is what really happened. So what you do is you read the stuff from Capra, you know, and you go, okay, this is his bullshit. This is his bullshit. Okay. And then you read Robert Riskin, just tear it apart. And it's just, it's chef's kiss. It's worth it.
Yeah. I like the concept of reading two different biographies of the same person at the same time. That sounds healthy.
Yeah.
To people watching this in the future, reading's this thing that people used to do where you would print things well, it's quite hard to explain, but it's what we used to do.
What makes the books interesting is that Robert Riskin used to be the screenwriter for Frank Capra. Like, he wrote Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and It Happened One Night and a lot of his early successes. But Capra had all of the glamour, right? He had all the focus on him, and people were talking about Capra-esque and Capra touch and blah, blah, blah. And so he's like, I have the Capra touch when they're having this argument. And Robert Riskin pulled a blank sheet of paper out of the typewriter, handed it to Frank Capra, and said, put your Capra touch on that, and walked out. Never worked with him again. And so that's why he wrote that book, because it's full of so much venom. It's just like I said, chef's kiss. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for biographies too, especially about like early Hollywood and stuff. James Bacon's books are really fascinating about that time period.
There's a good one that just came out called Hollywood, and it's kind of not a visual history, an oral history of everything. It's just the greatest book just to have and pick up and open at any random page and have fun. Dale.
Lemon, you journal every day.
Mm-hmm.
You do a sketchbook page every day. You do 2 strips a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever thought, and you love graphic novels, have you thought about doing a graphic novel? Because if you're journaling and sketchbooking, could that be adapted to piecemealing a graphic novel?
So in my fantasy spare time, I would absolutely do graphic novels. It's a year-long commitment in my head. I'm not going to knock out just some quick thing. I've thought about doing collections of my strips, which isn't really the same thing, but even that, I want to do it right. I just don't want to just stick out something just for the sake of it.
Aren't Andrews McMeel going to do that?
I think the bottom fell out of that reprint market. Couple of years, not like 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
It'd be nice if they did that. They've always talked about the Alley Oop has a Sunday feature called Little Oop about Alley Oop as a small child, and they said they were going to do a middle school book based on that at some point, but I haven't heard anything about that for a while. And I've started, for like the last 10 years, I've been doing my book called A Portrait of the Cartoonist as a Young Man, which is about my upbringing and transformation to becoming a cartoonist, which I think is fantastic. It's not really the story of the boring story. It's all the bizarre, silly little details.
Yeah. Okay.
That sounds great. That's something you're working on?
I've been working. I mean, I have a lot of it, but it's the time I don't have to sit. And when you've been drawing cartoons all day, the last thing you want to do is
draw more cartoons.
Sit down and draw more cartoons.
Yeah, well, you're at the show. You're in the show right now. You're the professional cartoonist. You're living the dream. You've got to crank the handle for as long as you can, I guess. And then you can settle down and write your autobiography.
Yeah, people don't realize it's I spent many years wanting to be a professional cartoonist and doing it as my hobby, and doing it because I have to draw. Like even now, I'm getting like a little itchy that I'm not drawing something. Usually when I'm sitting doing nothing, even watching a movie or something, I'm sketching or drawing or something like that. But I'd love to do a graphic novel. I always feel like it would be my retirement thing or whatever. And then I'm also doing for the movie which we were talking about. Remember back at the beginning of the show, they were just saying, "Oh, you should do a graphic novel of this," because I'd done the 8 strips already. But again, that's a year's work.
It's very easy to say you should just do a graphic novel.
Do that, I'm sure you guys all get the same. Like, I've got this idea for a kid's book. Do you want to draw it?
Yeah, I get a lot of those, but over the years, I had a few people come to me and say they want me to illustrate their graphic novel for.
Well, I was just curious. You obviously have a level of commitment, and your life is structured where you can do this. Now, why do
discipline? It's called discipline, Dale.
Yeah, I'm so bad at it. I can't even remember the word. Why do you collect? Why do you journal? Why do you use a sketchbook? We know that you're doing the strips for the money and the babes, but why the other
babes?
It's yeah. I just did actually the cartoon I drew yesterday was about one of my characters being a babe magnet, and he's got a huge magnet, and then stuck to that is Babe the pig, Babe the blue ox, and Babe Ruth. Different kind of babe.
Very good. Did you know that, Dale? Did you know he'd just done a cartoon about babes?
No. Remember, this is all synchronicity. This show is a focus for.
Why does the urge to create? I often thought about this, as I'm sure you guys have. I feel like I'm the gatherer of the hunter-gatherer, because I'm not a hunter in any way, shape, or form, other than hunting to things to collect. I don't know if I wouldn't say I was a collector. I gather because.
Have you looked behind you?
that's a collection.
Yeah.
people, I give things to a lot of people, and people give me things. So in that way, and I feel like I'm very poor at throwing things away. I like to find a good home for something, but I'm not good at tossing out. My spouse is very good. So
yes,
Chuck's been to my house. It's pretty sparse up there.
Yeah, it's yes, you have beautiful art objects around. It's a bit like walking into a little art gallery or something.
It's a bit like a curiosity museum, but it's very well curated.
Yeah.
So it's not crammed in, and it's not dusty. Whereas down here is where things come when I don't even drink, and I have a tiki bar behind me with a bunch of tiki stuff. And
are you in a basement?
Yeah, well, no, it's not a basement.
No, he's in an underground bunker, Dale.
It's sort of underneath the stairs at the front of the house. It's not.
Okay, you're on a hill.
No, not on a hill. It's very flat, very windy.
Okay.
Not for San Francisco. He's not on a hill.
Yeah, next show.
I'm not. No way am I on a hill. This is definitely not a hill. I'm not on a hill. Okay. Why do I collect? I feel this is my basic philosophy of life. I feel that everything is so random and chaotic around me, and that life. I don't believe in a creator. I don't believe in any kind of ultimate plan. We're not in a science experiment. I think it's all extremely random. And in order to make sense of all that, to have some kind of meaning, because I don't subscribe to any of probably the traditional ones that, some people claim work.
Zardoz is encouraging us all to become cannibals. That's Dale's religion.
No, Dale thinks we're in a comic strip. That's his religion.
Oh yeah, Dale thinks Dale thinks God is a cartoonist, and basically everything's happening for his amusement, which is more or less,
that's just as valid as any other philosophy, I think.
I'm a firm believer in the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh yes,
yes,
yeah, absolutely.
I think
also,
that.
I have a pastafarian bent myself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my belief is much more self-evidential. We're conscious, therefore the universe itself is conscious, because we're just bits of the universe. The universe gets bored with the cosmic oneness of being. Therefore, it splits itself up into all of us in order to keep itself from being mindlessly bored.
Lemon, do you journal and sketchbook and collect pebbles as some sort of memory aid in order to go back and remember things that you've encountered?
Okay. Hi, Summerlee, by the way.
Hi, Summerlee.
Hi, Summerlee.
We have an audience member.
I think that one of the reasons I'm very attracted to drawing a comic strip, as opposed to I love movies and I have a media background training, is that when you make a movie, you've got to make it with, 100 other people, and your vision is diluted. The thing about comic strip is you are absolutely in control. You are the master of everything. You can control every aspect of it based on your ability to draw what you want to create. So I think that I found, especially during the wilderness years of COVID and the fact that I work at home and barely leave the house, and when I do, it's an experience, that I can get into this zone of creating and controlling this world, which I don't have in real life. Mm-hmm. So that's my drive to do it. And it's such a beautiful, comforting thing to have that. It's a Zen state that I believe is called flow scientifically. It's a creative flow, I think it's called, that I have, and I didn't realize I had it until discussing it with other people, and they became very jealous that I was able to achieve that so quickly and easily, whereas they're sitting there like meditating and worrying that they left the gas on, or they need to do things, and I just lose myself in my work.
That's part of being professional, is that discipline to just sort of get on with it, and if you're sitting there worrying about the gas, you won't get very far.
You have a flow addiction. We have a 12-step group for that.
Is it Nerdaholics Anonymous?
No, it's like Flow Anonymous. We'll do everything we can to get you disrupt your flow state.
Oh, right.
No,
flow is part of it.
I totally get that. Like, for me, it's the zone, and I have a Twitch channel that I draw on, and I find that it being obligated to people watching me, like, I tend to draw more. I don't know. I'm weird. I'm not as disciplined as you are. But what I found is that I'll get in the zone and I won't realize that people are talking to me in the comments and stuff. So I had to actually add a note saying, like, if it seems like I'm ignoring you, I'm not. It's just because I'm in the zone. It's just because I'm,
Yeah, Amber's been streaming out her work. She's working on this comic for is Keen Spot Entertainment, your publisher, Captain T. Is Captain T the full title?
Captain T in the Search for King Ollie's Gold. It's for kids.
Yes, kids comic, yes. But you've been streaming it all out as you do it on Twitch.
Yeah, I have been, and there's a couple people actually kind of interested in it and going, "Yay, you're on this page now!" And it's like, you've been watching me from the beginning. Who are you?
That's great. I started doing it a little bit. I found, it's really, I sort of like, I want to be doing. I was doing some other thing, and then I'm like, well, I want to be doing something that's more specifically that, because it's it's the sort of observer and the observation sort of thing, and it's like, I didn't start this project thinking someone was going to be watching as I do it. I don't know, but if I'm doing some of it, it's confusing. I need to be sort of doing the right thing, I think. But yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
what strips do you admire?
Oh, that was a Dale question. Sorry, what did you say?
What strips do you admire?
What strips do you admire?
Do I admire?
Or turn you on, or were
Okay, well,
influential?
there's a few. There's one called. I feel very defensive of this because I know I discovered this myself, and now everyone's on the bandwagon. But there's one called Macanudo, done by an Argentinian cartoonist, and I was in Argentina, flipping through the newspaper and found it, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing.
It's drawn so beautifully, but I don't read. You know, I my Spanish is bad, but you said you're fluent, so you can probably pick up on it.
It's actually syndicated now with King Features, and it's translated into English. But it's the earlier stuff that I like. It's much more esoteric and wacky. It used to be called what was it called? I had a different name. Anyway, my memory. I'm just not used to talking to live people all the time. Anyway, there's that one. Then there's another one.
Oh my god, I think I know this strip.
It's a really bouncy style if it's the one I'm thinking about, but I could be wrong. I follow Andrew Farrago's Twitter, and he keeps me abreast to what's going on in the comic book industry because he's always got his finger on the pulse of the comic book industry. He's like,
Andrew. I wonder if we can get Andrew or Summerlee, if you're listening. They should come on the show.
Yeah, we could have Andrew and Shannon, because Shannon's job at Viz is really fascinating.
Yeah, have we not had Shannon on? I've had Shannon on shows in the past.
Yeah.
Have we not had her on?
I don't know. What? So you were going to show us something?
Because they know me.
You couldn't find it?
I couldn't find it. I was going to say I have this obsession with Blondie, the comic strip.
Oh,
and I don't like
the
it. I don't.
very early ones.
The way it's drawn. Yes, it's the way it's drawn. It's become. It's a very weird thing that if you look at early Blondie, it sort of looks really natural because the style kind of gel, but they've never changed it. So they've got Blondie drawn as like this flapper girl, exactly the same style, and then they have different eyes. Some of the characters have different eyes instead of the same eyes, and then they've got these weird knee joints that like half way too low, so the knees are all. But the way it's drawn, it's a really sophisticated piece of artwork, and I think David Reddick,
he's been doing it.
He's obviously under very strict instructions that he just can never change. Like it's exactly everything has to be drawn exactly the same. And
he's mimicking it. I was like, oh, you're doing a great job of like making it look just like Blondie.
It's just the having to draw it without, and you can never. The idea that you can never change it. Like everything's stuck, even though it could be done better. And
people like it though. This is what I learned, because I already knew it. But when Jim Davis gave his little talk at, in Kansas City for the National Cartoonist Society meetup, and he stood and people want the same thing. That's like the world is a crazy, chaotic place, as you said earlier, and people like that Garfield is always there and he's always the same. And Monday it's always a Monday joke. Tuesday it's always a lasagna joke. Friday it's always a date joke. Whatever. He's always
Monday was always food.
Monday's food, all right. Yeah. He's got a different joke for each day of the week, basically, and that that's what they want.
Yeah.
So,
the Far Side was probably one of my favorite comic strips, and I like the fact that it wasn't the same every day. And in most newspapers they replaced Far Side when it ended with Bizarro, which shifted over times from kind of like a Far Side like strip to its own insanity. Yeah,
but they're still like Far Side is still, it's consistent, it's regular, and when he thought he'd done enough he stopped. But people want it's the security. It's the same thing I was talking about with looking at those Disney comics. They sort of I know what I was trying to get at. It sort of triggers this sort of just sort of calm, sort of safe, security, nice feeling that's generated from looking at those comics and those images, and there's the balloons and the fact that you can stay there as long as you like on the image. The comic invites you to stay as long as you like.
Well, I know that Jay Foskett, who we had as a guest on the show, did a Donald Duck book that was over in Europe. It wasn't in English. And over in Europe, they are less. Yeah, there's another Donald Duck book, but they're less.
Oh, Karl Barks is best. Yeah.
Upset about going off model for like Disney characters and stuff like that. Like they're more forgiving of that. But here in the United States, Jay was saying that like if you're drawing stuff off model, you know, the audiences here don't accept it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Well,
yeah.
we're more symbol driven here in the United States.
They'll occasionally allow it. I was Shannon did it too. I think there was a book the Peanuts people did where they allowed artists to go off model. But
yeah,
you can see, and I think there's a Popeye one. I think just came out.
Yeah, the Popeye one. They had a whole bunch of different artists. I think, but that's when they're feeling a little experimental. Like, let's see, like, what else can we do with it? You know, we're not.
Yeah. As well. The Marvel. There was a couple of books called. I'm not even going to try and remember anything anymore. There was two versions of it. I feel like the word bizarre was in them or something, but they allowed artists to do their own interpretation.
Well, there was What If, so that's slightly different. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. The What Ifs and the What Thes were excellent. Does anyone remember What The? You said you're not a Marvel guy, so it would make sense if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Did you not like Judge Dredd at all either?
I liked, so this is from a comic strip called 2000 AD.
Yeah.
And I did buy the first issue because it had a space spinner on it.
Yeah, free little frisbee. Yes.
Back in the 70s. And I did read those, and I read all the comics. I loved reading comics, but definitely more of a Beano, Dandy, Sparky, Wham, Whizzer and Chips.
Oh yeah, I quite like Whizzer and Chips for whatever reason. I don't know. They were considered a more trashy version of them, but I quite liked it.
It's weird because then they kept joining together. So like there was Whizzer and then there was Chips, and suddenly it's Whizzer and Chips. Right?
Yeah, it was Whizzer and Chips. Was Whizzer and Chips the one? There was Buster magazine. Oh, Buster I liked a lot as well. Buster had young Andy Capp. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, Wham was definitely my favorite. I don't know what happened to Wham, but Wham was not the band, the comic.
Yeah.
Though Wham the band is from the same town as I'm from.
Yes, there's a good, healthy space. A lot of children's comics, and I think they're still doing okay in the UK. I mean, I'm not sure. Beano's around. Dennis the Menace got a makeover. Talking of makeovers, but you hear like you always see articles. Comics aren't just for kids anymore, but actually, it should be like comics aren't even for kids anymore because I don't really see a lot of kids. There was a Nickelodeon magazine.
Well, in England, wasn't there Melvin the Monster as well?
No.
No? Oh, I have a book here of Melvin the Monster. Maybe it's not an English.
Oh, well, he might have been a character in one of those.
I'll look up my book. I'll see.
Yeah.
Since you're a parent, and how old is your offspring?
The fruit of my loins is currently 11.
Now, does the fruit of your loins having a sire that is a cartoonist, does your offspring gravitate towards comics and illustration to consume as entertainment?
I definitely encouraged him. He loved Garfield. I even have a video of Jim Davis telling my son Santiago to drink his smoothie, because that's something we have to tell him every day, so that we can always do the video now to have Santiago drink his smoothie. And then it was Calvin and Hobbes.
Okay.
And then he drifted away. There's definitely Captain Underpants, and there's definitely Dogman. They're the two big ones.
What about Far Side? I remember Sam discovered a lot of those at school, but he also discovered Far Side at school.
I could definitely lend him my complete Far Side. He'd probably get into it. It's not. I just don't. He's not a reader. I know there are a lot of kids that love reading, but it's the video thing is just pulling everyone away from all that.
Yeah. Does he have an iPad?
I thought it gets an hour a day, and that's the greatest hour of his day.
All right, so Sam's had a friend. He was a ferocious reader. He read more than any of the other kids. And he quit school. He went to mechanic school in Wisconsin, and now he's like working as a mechanic up in Northern California, and not really doing any other college. So I, but he's very happy. So I don't know. Who knows what reading is all about?
That may have been a very wise financial move.
Yeah, it was probably. I'm just telling you, that's what the smart kids who are doing the reading are doing.
Yeah. I'm gonna encourage my daughter to go to a trade school because, like, they pay you, paid training and set you up with a job and all the goodness.
So,
yeah.
Do you think that you will eventually move to a portable digital device like an iPad or a Samsung?
I have a portable digital device. I do not think so. I have a backup for sure in case something goes, because I really panicked that when I first got this very big, expensive Cintiq that I use, 10 hours a day. If it goes wrong, like I have another setup that I can just, and I travel. I've looked into, if we want to get onto tech stuff, I've looked into the Cintiq that is the one that has the PC inside it, which looks terrible. Then getting a lot of thumbs down. I said I looked into it. I dismissed the idea, and then I looked into the iPad Pro, which is it's just not. You could say what you want about these Cintiqs. They're not perfect, but there's no comparison. I have
a Huion, and I'm very happy with it. Yeah, but Huion's about half the price of a Cintiq.
What is it called? A Bouillon?
Huion, Huion. Huion.
Oh right, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and they're about half the price of the Cintiq and about the same size. And I've seen very little difference in how it handles with the newer versions.
Lemon, if you do decide to go that way, I would suggest researching the Samsung 15-inch 360 Galaxy Book.
Okay. Why, Dale?
Oh, this is the commercial part of the program.
Yeah, Dale's got all sorts of secret sponsorship deals that we don't know about. But
well, no, Lemon likes working in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And if he was to buy a computer that would allow him to draw on it directly, that reduces the number of art-friendly computers. You can't buy a portable full Mac OS computer that you can draw on. They only have the iPads, which means that he would then have to get a Windows computer. If he's going to get a Windows computer that he's going to draw on, then you have to pay attention to the stylus technology and the screen size. And the one that is currently hitting the sweet spot using Wacom technology and has a 15-inch screen is the Samsung 360 Galaxy Book.
Okay.
Dale, I think you should make ASMR videos where you're just sort of talking about technology.
That's what I'm doing
Samsung
here.
Computers and things. Yeah, that's good. It's my favorite
The thing
portion
about
of
that
the
one
show.
is I guess it folds back, so you're just holding it like a pad.
Yeah, and you can get a stylus from Lamy, Lamy, the fountain pen manufacturer.
Oh boy.
That's compatible with that computer, so you have something ergonomic with a cap on it.
Okay, well, I think
play.
that's probably, we've been going for a while now. It's probably time to wrap it up, isn't it? And, once Dale starts rapping on about technology.
We haven't talked about eating people.
Well, we haven't talked, okay, well, at the end of the show, we'll bring it up now. So Dale's current theory is that all movies... In fact, Dale, you shouldn't even be... I don't know how you can then recommend a movie, because you say all movies have got subliminally trying to get us used to the idea of cannibalism, is what Dale's saying. It's subliminally suggesting. And once you know this fact, it's quite hard to watch a movie without realising that there's cannibalism in it. And so Dale's probably right about this issue. But then you go ahead and you recommend a movie to somebody. So that's like saying, basically, I recommend that you become a cannibal.
But it's also the thing that if you're thinking about a yellow car, you start seeing yellow cars everywhere.
Yes.
I don't know. What Lemon movies have you seen? Have you seen any movies lately, Lemon? Other than the documentary you're in, which I hope doesn't have any cannibalism in it.
For the last, this is more nerd credentials here. I've been vegetarian for 43 years or something like that. Crazy.
So you won't be turning to cannibalism.
I think this all stems from the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving movie, where when Woodstock eats turkey at the table.
Yeah,
That would be the beginning.
No, the taboo. I say the taboo is not against. It's against intelligence. You don't eat an intelligent creature. And you're obviously Lemon as a vegetarian has decided that animals are intelligent, conscious creatures that shouldn't be eaten. Yes.
Lemon, is your entire family vegetarian?
No.
Okay.
I failed in my attempts to raise a vegetarian child.
Okay. No, my thought is that there is, because of all the zombie movies and things like, oh, I have a vegan burger now that tastes like human flesh, that we're trying to get rid of the stigma of eating people.
All right. Well, I just saw the movie. Recently saw Emma, Jane Austen's Emma. I saw two different versions of Jane Austen's Emma, and I didn't find a lot of cannibalism in either of those.
Yes, but the remake, Pride and Prejudice versus Zombies had a lot of it.
Well, okay, that made up for all the other ones, I suppose. Yes, all right.
I'm not saying all movies. I'm just saying, have you noticed that in watching pop media?
Are we specifically referring to zombies eating people, or are we talking about dogs eating other dogs?
Do you feel that cannibalism is as taboo as it was when you were growing up?
Diego Rivera tried cannibalism. He said the female thighs and breasts were the tastiest.
Okay.
Wait,
so actually, it's more taboo now.
Who tried cannibalism?
Diego Rivera, the Mexican muralist, married to Frida Kahlo.
Really?
Yeah, I read somewhere that he and Frida Kahlo at a dinner, they were offered human flesh and tried it.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
But the thing is I've read two different accounts of that. I've read that account, and then I've read that was propaganda spread to try and kind of destroy their reputations as well. So I don't know which one to believe.
Well, in Diego Rivera's autobiography, he definitely mentions he tried human flesh. So maybe that was the dinner party you're referring to.
Yeah.
Well, definitely eating the hearts and brains of your enemies gives you their power. I mean, I've been doing that for years. I
would definitely argue there's an anti-vegetarian agenda. Vegetarianism is the butt of many jokes when mentioned in a way in which religions and illnesses are not mocked. There's a general understanding you do not make fun of someone's religion, or if they have some sort of terrible disease or something. But someone's died. If it's anything other than meat and potatoes or pizza and burgers, it always has to be mocked. There's always like, oh, that's why he's so insult at the.
Alcohol's like that too. If you don't drink alcohol, you get a little of that as well.
Yes, and coffee is normalized to the point where it's scary. I play this game with myself. Anytime someone says coffee or I need to get caffeine, I substitute the word heroin and just realize how crazy it is. But
but heroin messes you up a lot more than coffee or tea.
I would disagree. I think caffeine wrecks lives.
Caffeine wrecks lives.
Yeah. See, this is a fascinating topic. Why do you believe that?
Well, because I used to drink coffee and now I don't, and I realized what a slave to caffeine I was, and how sapping it is of a lot of things, and how it's been encouraged by the capitalist society because it aids the workforce, and how it's an addiction that is so normalized people don't realize they're addicted to it, and they think it's just fine.
And alcohol's on the other
like all addictions, it destroys your rhythms, it destroys your relationships, and it destroys your life. And I'm talking about extreme examples of caffeine addiction, obviously.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I have 2 cups in the morning. But Ian, my partner, doesn't drink coffee because he had a very bad experience in his early 20s, and coffee just brings that right back, and his body goes, nope, we're not going to do this, right?
Wow.
And so he doesn't drink coffee, And what you're saying about it, there's being a stigma against it. We'll go out with friends or something, and it's like, oh, let's get a pot of coffee for the table, and he's like, no thanks, I'll have tea or something. And people they're flabbergasted by the fact that he doesn't drink coffee. Yeah. It's interesting.
It's a vast conspiracy, and people don't realize it's so strong. I mean, it's stronger. I would say, I'd argue caffeine is stronger than alcohol on like a beer level alcohol.
Back when the FDA was formed in the United States, coffee and alcohol both lobbied to basically make caffeine not considered a drug to be controlled in the United States. Like alcohol did it for alcohol. They did it for different kind of types of alcohol, beer and stuff like that. But I remember that coffee companies lobbied to make caffeine a non-controlled substance so that they could continue selling coffee.
Alcohol and tea are part of this two-step. As a worker, you amp yourself up with coffee, and then when you get home, you de-amp yourself with alcohol.
Exactly, yeah. And then you have a crap night's sleep, and then you wake up in the morning, and then you need the coffee again.
Yep.
And it's expensive.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But I
all right. I think a little. Coffee. Yes. A little bit. Like, I see what you're saying, that too much of it'll destroy your life. But I think and destroy social relationships. A little bit enhances social relationships. Having a nice cup of tea, that's part of life in England. Have a nice cup of tea. That's very nice. It enhances your social relationships. You do that.
I totally agree with you.
It's fine.
Heroin. But even with heroin, they've shown that. I'm not an expert in the subject, but in heroin, they're like there's still like a large social component to like your addiction. So I mean, yes, but I don't think you can compare coffee and tea to heroin. Well, I mean, you can compare it, but I don't think like heroin always comes off.
You can though. Okay. This is why you can compare it, is because there was wars fought over coffee and tea.
Yes.
Right, and I mean,
you can compare it.
Wars over heroin, so there are comparisons between.
I'm not. I retract saying you can't compare it. You can compare it.
I'm totally with Lemon on this one.
I've never gone warm.
I drink coffee, but I'm with you.
You see why I bring up cannibalism every show now? It just takes us off on these insane tangents.
It's the caffeine.
It is. But
society that accepts caffeine as normal is one step away from turning on itself and eating its own flesh.
That being said, humans have always used substances. If they've gone
and animals.
Well, they've gone and they've checked out the Egyptian mummies and stuff, and they found things like cocaine and heroin and cannabis and tobacco in Egyptian mummies, which have proven that they had a global trade way back in the Bronze Age.
Yeah, and in many ways, the Egyptian mummy is the mummy of all of us.
You're just saying that because they like coffee too.
I do like saying mummy. I really liked on Phineas and Ferb where they would talk about mummies. Where's your mummy?
Lemon, if it's not a personal question, when did you become a vegetarian and why did you become a vegetarian? And I'm not criticizing it. I thought about it, but then the pandemic hit, and because I was cooking for others, it was not a practical thing for me to try.
It was in art school. I had a crush on a girl who was vegetarian.
Okay, that explains that.
I went to the library and I bought a book called 7 Reasons to Become a Vegetarian, and I agreed with 5 of the 7 reasons. I probably agree with all 7 now, but it was partly because I was always slightly repulsed by meat, and then I was cooking for myself for the first time, and then realized I did not have to mess around with giblets and all that stuff. Okay. I could make a perfectly good meal, and I don't love some vegetables, and I'll eat them just because they're superfoods. But I think around that time I became much more conscious of my puny little pathetic body, and I think changing my diet really helped my mental state as well. Long before wellness was a thing.
There's a lot of really
diet
dishes in Indian cooking.
Yes, and I love Indian food. The other thing I did, I was so poor back in art school because I never got a loan. I don't know anyone who got a loan in England to go to college, but we would get a very puny grant to live on. And so what I'd do is on Saturday after I was in Brighton on the south coast. There was a fruit and veg market, and after everyone was packing up, I would go along with a bag and I'd just pick up all the bits on the floor, and sometimes you'd have to cut off the manky bits, or they'd be like bruised or whatever. But you could get a whole meal, and you could not just a whole meal. You just go home and you just make it all into a big stew with some rice that you buy in bulk, and that would last the whole week. And I'm not a foodie in any way, shape, or form. It's so practical just to have this food ready, and everyone else would come around because they knew that there was always going to be food, the stew or the fry up or whatever. But it was free food essentially, get me going. And and you just look at a civilized society and wonder if, again, the normalization of killing an animal and eating it. I have more appreciation for people that will hunt it and kill their own food and store it, or they're in a part of the world where the options for growing vegetables are limited. But I think a vegetarian diet, even a vegan diet, is perfectly substantial. People always go on about where's your protein coming from, but we eat way too much protein anyway. And
what about insects? Insects are the food of the future.
I look 20 years younger, so I can just say not drinking coffee and eating vegetarian food is very good for you.
But would you eat insects?
I have eaten an insect by accident, and I did try. There's in Mexico they have
grasshoppers.
They serve insects, like as snacks almost. And I have tried those out of curiosity. My science brain.
Yeah. So
they're all cooked up in spices and things. So it doesn't taste like anything. But
they can make a flour.
I felt bad for the grasshopper that I ate.
Yeah, so you would still be like a non-insect eater if that was commonly available.
I don't even like eating the fake meats. I don't have any frame of reference because I don't remember eating any like a real hamburger. But so I'm like, it doesn't taste as good as like a veggie burger that has like bits of vegetables you can see in it. It's just,
I like a nice veggie burger. Yes,
and I don't know, there's something about it.
The reason this is fascinating is art is a sport. I mean, it's a physical activity that you have to do. And you're doing a lot of it. You're doing 2 strips, you're doing a sketchbook, and you're doing a journal. So you have to keep in shape in order to do this.
Well, Dale, all right. Well, you don't have to give us your workout tips.
That is a joke. I have watched. I don't mean that as a joke. Sergio Aragones is in his 80s, and he has a new comic coming out today.
Yeah, no, health is a big part of this show. I don't know, but I think we've been going. I think we'll have to have Lemon back for another health-related episode. Because we've been talking for a while. But yes, we do like to talk about health. I mean, but Lemon, you've already given us like tons of tips for the young cartoonists. We need to be vegetarians, we need to eat books, and we need to stop all that science fiction crap.
And put print all over your body as much as you can.
and rub your art all over your body.
Yes.
But make sure you're dry. Because the oils can spoil the paper.
Well, there was a period of time when I couldn't eat red meat at all. My stomach rejected it. And so I was forced to expand my diet. And I grew an appreciation for vegetarian cooking because that's what expanded my diet. And even though I am a meat eater and stuff like that, I'm still like, ooh, share your vegetarian recipes with me because, it depends on how you spice the zucchini. It's good. It's good stuff. But yeah, that's just me.
All right. Well, okay. Shall I call it? I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to play the theme tune.
One last thing.
Yeah.
Please look at Jonathan Lemon's work.
Oh, yes.
On comics.
Thank you.
And look for the documentary Jack Has a Plan.
Yes.
Jack has a plan.
We did mention that, didn't we?
Yes, we had. Yes, yes.
At a film festival near you at some point.
Have we posted links into the chat, Amber? While we still can.
Yes, we can.
Do quickly post some links because once I end the show, then we can't do it anymore.
Here is some rabbits against magic. Here's some alley oops. Let's see. Alley-oop?
Just the one oop, actually. Alley-oop.
There we go.
Alley Oops. Oh, that's good. If I ever want to start a competing strip, I'll call it Alley Oops.
So hold them in front of you. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, very cool. Are you a member of the Cartoonist Society?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Lemon's a keen member. He's
yeah. Taking it off the wall.
Nice.
Ooh. Yeah,
Yes.
I am not a member.
2014. Oh no, that's not it. It's up here.
Wait, yeah, that looks different from my one. Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna fall off. This is my award. That was my award. Okay.
Yeah.
My one of two awards here, up here. See on the.
He's got his certificate on the wall there. Yeah, I keep mine on the wall too.
Yeah.
All right.
That's how they track you.
They don't need to track him. He's in his bunker all day, every day. All right. Well, that's a fascinating show. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I think we all learned a lot today. And Lemon, we'll just hang around after this theme tune and we'll say goodbye properly. But to the viewers now, goodbye, everyone.
And all your input, Amber.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Kids.
I talk too much.
Yes.
Here's a theme song for Chuck Whelan Showy. He asked me to write one, but I stole from David Bowie. Here's a theme song. Chuck Whelan is the best. We have lots of hosts, but we're running out of gas. Will you be our guest on? Will you be our guest on? Be on the Chuck Whelan Show. Whoa, 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 whoa.
If you're gonna have a show, you